For decades, it sat right next to the multivitamin on millions of bathroom counters. Doctors recommended it. Pharmacists stacked it near the register. And if you're over 65, there's a very good chance you've been taking it. Or you're taking it right now. It's calcium. And the latest wave of research is raising a question that millions of seniors deserve to have answered before their next morning dose. What if the supplement you've been faithfully taking to protect your bones is quietly putting your heart at risk? A 2010 study published in the British Medical Journal followed more than 16,000 participants and found that those taking calcium supplements had a significantly higher rate of heart attacks compared to those who were not supplementing. The researchers were specific. This risk was tied to the pill form of calcium, not to calcium from food. Those two words, pill versus food, turn out to make an enormous difference inside the body after 65. That study set off more than a decade of follow-up research, and what that research has revealed about how supplemental calcium behaves differently from dietary calcium is something every senior taking a tablet needs to understand. In this video, we're going to break down exactly why pill calcium and food calcium behave differently once they enter the bloodstream, what the evidence actually says about whether these supplements prevent the fractures that matter most, two additional risks most doctors haven't warned you about, and the real alternatives that protect bones without the hidden dangers. And the single most important piece of this video, a nutrient that most calcium supplement users have never heard of, one that may be the actual missing piece in bone protection, is coming near the end. Stay for it. It may completely change your approach to bone health. Before we get into the research, drop a comment below. Where are you watching from today? And are you currently taking a calcium supplement? We read every single comment, and you'd be surprised how many people watching right now are in the exact same situation you are. Let us know. Why calcium supplements became a health staple. To understand why so many seniors take calcium supplements and why the recommendation has persisted for so long, you have to go back to the 1980s and 1990s, when osteoporosis moved to the front of the medical conversation. Research confirmed what physicians had suspected. Bone density declines sharply after menopause, and fractures, particularly hip fractures, were devastating older adults in large numbers. Hip fractures in adults over 65 carry a one-year mortality rate of between 20 and 30%. That means up to 1 in 3 seniors who breaks a hip does not survive the following year. The crisis was real. Calcium is the primary mineral in bone. The logic was intuitive. If bones are losing calcium, give people more calcium. Calcium supplements became standard practice almost overnight. By the early 2000s, the majority of women over 60 in the United States were taking one. What nobody fully accounted for was that delivering calcium through a concentrated pill is not the same as eating calcium through food. And that distinction, it turns out, unchanges nearly everything. The calcification paradox, when calcium ends up in the wrong place. Here is the core mechanism at the heart of this issue, one the supplement industry has been remarkably slow to communicate publicly. When calcium enters the body through food, dairy products, leafy greens, sardines, almonds, it arrives gradually, alongside a full matrix of cofactors: magnesium, vitamin K2, phosphorus, and dozens of micronutrients that regulate absorption and distribution. The body's hormonal systems, particularly parathyroid hormone and calcitonin, manage calcium carefully, directing it toward bones and teeth where it belongs. When you take a calcium supplement, especially calcium carbonate, the most common form in pharmacies, a large concentrated dose floods the bloodstream in a short window, when the body's regulatory systems can become overwhelmed. And when they are overwhelmed, calcium can begin depositing in places where it should never be, the walls of arteries, This is called vascular calcification. Arterial walls harden, blood pressure rises, and the risk of cardiovascular events increases. The very mineral taken to strengthen bones can end up stiffening arteries if it arrives in pill form rather than through food. The 2010 British Medical Journal analysis by Bolland and colleagues made this connection impossible to dismiss. Following more than 16,000 participants, the researchers found that calcium supplement use was associated with a 31% increased risk of myocardial infarction. Dietary calcium showed no such association. It was the supplement form specifically, not the mineral itself, driving the elevated risk. Eleanor's story. Eleanor was 68 years old, a retired school librarian from Ohio, when her doctor flagged low bone density on a routine DEXA scan. Her T-score placed her in the osteopenic range. Not full osteoporosis, but the kind of number that historically sent physicians reaching for a prescription pad. She was told to take 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day in supplement form. Eleanor was diligent. She took her calcium tablet every morning for 6 years without missing a day. At 74, a cardiac screening revealed significant coronary artery calcification. Her cardiologist was concerned enough to spend a long appointment reviewing her supplement routine in detail. When Eleanor listed her daily calcium tablet, he paused. He walked her through the BMJ findings, the follow-up research, and the relationship between supplemental calcium and arterial deposits. Eleanor was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "I've been taking this every single day for 6 years. Why did nobody tell me this?" She transitioned to a dietary approach: plain Greek yogurt, low-fat cheese, canned sardines, cooked kale, and began a structured resistance training program with a physical therapist. 18 months later, her bone density had stabilized. Her cardiologist noted that her arterial calcification score had not progressed further. Eleanor's story is not a medical guarantee for anyone, but it reflects a pattern that is appearing with increasing frequency in clinics across North America. Seniors who received calcium supplement recommendations a decade ago are being re-evaluated in light of the updated research. Eleanor's experience will resonate with a lot of people watching this. Taking something faithfully, on a doctor's recommendation, without knowing the full picture that has since emerged. If you or someone close to you has been through something similar, a supplement or medication that turned out to have a side of the story you weren't told, share it in the comments. The people reading after you will be grateful you did. The fracture question. Do these supplements actually prevent the fractures that kill? If the purpose of calcium supplements is to prevent fractures, or it is worth asking whether the evidence supports that claim, because the honest answer is more complicated than most supplement marketing will tell you. A large-scale clinical review analyzing data from more than 50,000 older adults found that calcium supplementation taken in isolation, without adequate vitamin D, without resistance exercise, without sufficient dietary protein, had minimal and often statistically insignificant effects on fracture prevention. Studies that showed meaningful benefit almost universally involved calcium as one part of a multi-intervention protocol. Calcium alone was rarely the deciding variable. More damaging to the supplement argument, a major analysis published in a peer-reviewed journal of internal medicine found that among women over 70, a calcium supplementation did not significantly reduce hip fracture rates. Hip fractures, the ones with the 20 to 30% one-year mortality rate, were not reliably being prevented by the supplement most people take specifically to prevent them. Medical experts increasingly agree that bone health after 65 is not a simple calcium delivery problem. Bone is living tissue. It responds to mechanical stress, hormonal signals, protein availability, and a full range of micronutrients. Sending more calcium through a pill does not replicate the complexity of what healthy bone actually requires. Be honest, Did you know that calcium supplements have not been proven to reliably prevent hip fractures? Drop a yes or no in the comments right now. We ask because the gap between what most people believe about this supplement and what the research actually shows is one of the widest we've encountered covering senior health topics. The kidney stone connection. There is a second significant risk associated with calcium supplements that receives far less attention than the cardiovascular concern, and it deserves to be said clearly. A 2006 study published in the New England Journal of Medicine, drawing on data from the Women's Health Initiative over a 7-year period, found that women taking calcium supplements showed a 17% higher incidence of kidney stones compared to women who were not supplementing. The mechanism is direct. Excess calcium from supplements passes through the kidneys, where it binds with oxalates in the urine to form calcium oxalate stones. Anyone who has passed a kidney stone understands that this is not a minor consideration. The pain is severe, it can last days, and recurrence rates run high after the first stone forms. What makes this especially important for adults over 65 is that kidney function naturally declines with age. The kidneys become progressively less efficient at filtering and excreting excess minerals. The older you are, the more likely excess supplemental calcium is to accumulate in the renal system rather than clear safely. Dietary calcium, once again, does not carry this risk. When calcium arrives through food, it binds to oxalates in the digestive tract before those oxalates reach the kidneys, which actually lowers stone formation risk in people prone to them. The supplement creates the opposite effect from the food. What calcium plus vitamin D combinations actually do. Many calcium supplements are sold as combination calcium plus vitamin D products, with the premise that vitamin D improves calcium absorption and therefore makes the supplement more beneficial. The vitamin D claim is accurate. Vitamin D does meaningfully improve calcium absorption. But if the fundamental problem is that supplemental calcium bypasses the body's normal regulatory pathways and deposits in arterial walls, then improving absorption of supplemental calcium does not solve the problem. It may accelerate it. A large-scale review of data from more than 35,000 adults published in a leading endocrinology journal found that among older adults with already adequate vitamin D levels, adding supplemental calcium did not produce meaningful improvements in bone mineral density compared to achieving calcium through diet alone. The combination pill showed measurable benefit primarily in severely deficient populations, people with both extremely low dietary calcium and significant vitamin D deficiency. For the average senior eating a reasonably varied diet, the combination supplement was not delivering the bone protective outcome being marketed. Research consistently shows that vitamin D is genuinely important for bone health, immune function, and muscle performance in seniors. The issue is not vitamin D, it is the vehicle used to deliver calcium, on what actually protects bones. After 65, the real protocol. This is where the conversation shifts from caution to concrete action, because the alternatives to calcium supplementation are well supported by evidence, carry no cardiovascular risk, and in many cases, outperform supplements at protecting against the fractures that matter most. Dietary calcium first. The target for most adults over 65 is 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams of calcium per day from food. Here is what that looks like in practical terms. 1 cup of plain Greek yogurt delivers approximately 250 to 300 milligrams. 1 ounce of aged cheddar cheese provides around 200 milligrams. Half a cup of cooked kale contributes approximately 180 milligrams. 1 can of sardines with the bones intact, one of the most underestimated foods in a senior's diet, provides roughly 350 milligrams. 1 cup of calcium-fortified plant milk adds around 300 milligrams. Spread those across 3 meals, and most seniors are hitting 1,000 milligrams through food without a single pill. The key is distribution. Calcium absorption is maximized when intake is spread throughout the day, not delivered in one large dose. Resistance training. This is the most powerful, most underused bone-building tool available to seniors, and it costs nothing. When muscles pull against bone during resistance exercise, they stimulate osteoblasts, the cells that build new bone tissue. This mechanical loading is something no supplement can replicate. A large-scale study involving adults over 65 found that a twice-weekly resistance training program produced an average increase in lumbar spine bone density of 3.2% over 12 months without any calcium supplementation. For context, most prescription bone medications produce density gains in the same 2 to 4% range. Resistance training for bone health does not require a gym. 3 sets of 10 bodyweight squats, 3 sets of 10 wall push-ups, and 3 sets of 10 resistance band rows, performed on 2 non-consecutive days per week, load the hips, the spine, and the wrists. These are the exact sites where fractures in seniors most often occur. Total time, 25 minutes per session. Vitamin K2, the missing traffic director. This is the nutrient that most calcium supplement users have never heard of. And it may be the single most important missing piece in the conventional bone health conversation. Vitamin K2 activates 2 proteins that are central to the calcium story. The first is osteocalcin, which escorts calcium directly into bone mineral tissue. The second is matrix Glay protein, which actively prevents calcium from depositing in arterial walls. Vitamin K2 is, in the most literal sense, the traffic director for calcium in the body. It routes calcium into bones and keeps it out of arteries, the exact function that is missing when calcium is delivered through a supplement without it. And recent research involving more than 2,000 older adults found that those with the highest dietary vitamin K2 intake had significantly greater bone mineral density and substantially lower rates of arterial calcification compared to those with low intake. This is the outcome people are trying to achieve when they take calcium supplements. Vitamin K2 is the key that makes it happen. Vitamin K2 is found naturally in natto, aged cheeses such as Gouda and Brie, egg yolks, and liver. For those who don't regularly consume these foods, a vitamin K2 supplement in the MK7 form at 100 to 200 micrograms per day is the protocol supported in the research literature. One non-negotiable note: if you take warfarin or any anticoagulant medication, speak with your physician before adding vitamin K2. It interacts directly with blood thinners and must be managed carefully. Magnesium calcium cannot be properly absorbed or directed without adequate magnesium. The 2 minerals are biochemical partners. Decades of research confirm that magnesium deficiency independently accelerates bone loss and raises fracture risk. Yet the majority of older adults in Western countries are consistently falling short. The recommended daily intake for adults over 65 runs from 320 to 420 milligrams per day. 1 ounce of pumpkin seeds, roughly 2 tablespoons, provides approximately 150 milligrams. Half an avocado adds another 58 milligrams. A half cup of black beans contributes 60 milligrams. Adding these 3 foods across a day fills most of the magnesium gap without a single additional pill. Robert's story. Robert was 71 years old, a retired civil engineer from Vancouver who had been taking a 1,000 milligram calcium carbonate supplement every morning for 9 years. He had started it after his wife was diagnosed with osteoporosis, reasoning, as many spouses do, that being proactive made sense. At a routine physical, his physician, who had recently reviewed updated clinical guidance on calcium supplementation, asked Robert to consider stopping the tablet and replacing it with a dietary calcium approach combined with structured resistance exercise. Robert was skeptical. "I've been doing this for 9 years," he said. "Stopping sounds like going backwards." His doctor walked him through the cardiovascular research, the fracture prevention data, and the emerging evidence on vitamin K2. Robert, an engineer by training and temperament, asked for the actual studies. His doctor provided them. Robert read every one. He made the switch. Over the following 18 months, he added resistance band training 3 days per week, incorporated sardines twice a week, started his mornings with plain Greek yogurt and pumpkin seeds, and added a vitamin K 2-MK7 supplement at 100 micrograms per day after confirming with his doctor it was appropriate for him. At his next DEXA scan, his bone density had held steady. His blood pressure had improved by 6 points. His cardiologist had no concerns. I spent 9 years taking something that may have been quietly working against me, Robert said. I don't blame my old doctor. He was following the guidance that existed at the time. But the research has moved, and I decided to move with it. Quick check-in of those 4 approaches we just covered: dietary calcium, resistance training, vitamin K2, and adequate magnesium. How many are you currently doing? Drop your number in the comments: 0, 1, 2, 3, or all 4. There's no wrong answer here. Knowing where you stand is the only honest starting point. Of course, everyone's health situation is different, so always discuss any changes with your healthcare provider, particularly if you are currently taking a calcium supplement on a doctor's recommendation, or if you are on any medications that affect mineral metabolism or blood clotting. Before we get to the action steps, here's what we'd like you to do right now. Think about the one specific change from today's video that you are going to make in the next 7 days. Is it asking your doctor about your calcium supplement? Adding sardines to your grocery list this week? Starting a resistance band routine on Monday? Whatever it is, write it in the comments before you close this video. Putting a commitment in writing makes follow-through significantly more likely. We'll be watching for what you choose. Action steps. Here is exactly how to put this into practice starting today. Step 1. Have an informed conversation with your doctor about your current calcium supplement. If you are taking a standalone calcium supplement or a combination calcium plus vitamin D product, bring this topic to your next scheduled appointment, or call to ask about it sooner if you're concerned. Don't stop the supplement without your physician's input, particularly if it was prescribed for a documented bone loss condition. So come prepared with a specific question. Given the research on supplemental calcium and cardiovascular and kidney risk, is this still the right approach for my age and health profile? Informed patients consistently get more thorough conversations. Step 2. Audit your dietary calcium for 3 days. Before your doctor's appointment, track what you actually eat for 3 consecutive days and estimate the calcium content using the serving sizes in this video. Most seniors who eat dairy products and green vegetables are closer to 800 to 1,000 milligrams daily through food than they realize. If you are already hitting that range, the case for adding a supplement becomes considerably weaker. Step 3. Begin resistance training twice per week, starting this week. Choose 2 days with at least 1 rest day between sessions. Perform 3 sets of 10 bodyweight squats, 3 sets of 10 wall push-ups, and 3 sets of 10 resistance band rows. These 3 movements collectively load the hips, spine, and wrists, the sites where age-related fractures most commonly occur. If you have existing joint or mobility limitations, a physical therapist can modify these movements without removing their bone-loading benefit. Total commitment: 25 minutes, twice a week. Step 4. Ask your doctor specifically about vitamin K2 in MK7 form. The standard research-backed dose is 100 to 200 micrograms per day. If you are on warfarin, Eliquis, Xarelto, or any other anticoagulant, this conversation with your physician is not optional. Vitamin K2 has a direct pharmacological interaction with blood thinners and must be managed under clinical supervision. Or for those not on anticoagulants, this is one of the most evidence-supported and underused additions to a senior bone health protocol. Step 5. Add 2 tablespoons of pumpkin seeds to your morning meal this week. This single, low-cost change delivers approximately 75 to 90 milligrams of bioavailable magnesium, the cofactor that calcium cannot function without. Stir them into Greek yogurt, sprinkle them over oatmeal, or eat them on their own. It takes 10 seconds. Over time, consistent magnesium intake supports both calcium metabolism and bone mineral density in ways that a calcium supplement alone cannot replicate. The science on calcium supplements has shifted meaningfully over the last 15 years. The clinical recommendations have not always kept pace. Millions of seniors are still taking a supplement that may be carrying risks that outweigh its benefits, not because they made a poor decision, but because they received guidance that the evidence has since moved past. Your bones and your heart both deserve the most current picture. That is what this channel exists to provide. Here's our question for you. After watching this today, are you planning to have a conversation with your doctor about your calcium supplement? And is there someone in your life, a spouse, a sibling, a close friend, who takes a calcium supplement and needs to see this video? Share it with them this week. You may be doing them one of the most meaningful health favors of the year. If this video gave you something useful, subscribe to Senior Health Decoded for weekly science-backed health information built specifically for adults over 60. New videos every week.